Well, aloha, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to PWT Talks NXT.
You
Rob
did it.
right there. I didn't say howdy. I said aloha, and then there was still trouble waiting for me at the end of the sentence. What are you gonna do? I got my Switch 2 today, Nate. Perhaps that had me distracted. I got nothing here. Okay, speaking of had nothing, let's talk NXT. It's not it it wasn't bad actively or anything like that, but it was just very everything kind of fed to the same storyline. Four of the matches all leading to the same storyline, a couple of storylines running in place, and I guess that was that. And it just felt like a show that was forgettable. Let's see if we took anything from it. All of the matches over 8 minutes, but all under 11:02. Four matches to determine who was going to be in the four-way match next week to to face God, JC Jane. I forget because why would it be her? At
Yeah, right.
Evolution, and so that was for the five matches. We had the six man, and of course, something did come out of that. But our main event really was Ava talking to Blake Monroe, and then Blake Monroe being sideswiped by Fatal Influence. And Fatal Influence's music plays, and I'm just like, really? She has to start with this feud? Like, that's what I thought. And then I realized, oh, right, they have the championship. Like I just straight up forgot that they had the championship because, and oh my gosh, when JC Jane said we've been running this division for 6 months, there was audible laughter from the crowd.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, they just straight made fun of them because they lose all the time. Yeah, and I feel the same way as Sean Plickta in the chat. Blake is here and she is a face, which is very interesting. JC Jane should not be a champion. Those two things are both true. Yeah, it's odd that they went babyface with Blake Monroe. They could have done either thing, but I feel like maybe somebody could have told her because she's coming off a little snotty. So and I guess you can attempt to be an entitled babyface, but that's always how Sasha sounded, and as a result, she's always been better as a heel, Mercedes Moné. So yeah, I don't know. You've got so you are going to have four women, only one of them a babyface, challenging for one of four is going to be challenging for the championship. That being Jada Parker, Lash Legend, Izzy Dame, and Jordan Grace. Seems like a foregone conclusion that it would be Grace because she's the only baby face that's going to be in the match, and you don't want to run heel versus JC Jane. That doesn't do JC Jane any favors. And I don't think Grace wins this. I think that they hold off and Blake Monroe ends up winning, and I think Jordan doesn't win because she's going to the main roster. So, and Sean really trying to convince me that Jordan has to win. She's not gonna. I
No,
mean,
I don't
she's gonna
think
win the
so.
four-way. She's gonna win the four-way, but she's not going to win the championship. Um, yeah, and he also mentions it could be Jada. I said the exact same in my thing. In the they can have Jada pivot anytime they want and do that. But anyway, before I accidentally cover literally everything that was on the show, why don't I just throw to you about Blake Monroe? She, I thought was okay. Um, nothing, nothing crazy or anything like that.
No, I
And
mean,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
there's. Go
it's
ahead.
it's like yeah, I don't dislike, I talked a little bit about it on the show last week with David Miller. But I mean, there's room for a like a sex-based character in NXT in wrestling, right? I mean, Mandy Rose did it for a little while. Really haven't had anybody in quite that spot since Mandy Rose. So I don't necessarily mind it. What I do think is a little bit ridiculous, and I guess I say ridiculous, but it's not like wrestling has. This is a new concept to wrestling, stealing gimmicks and stealing stuff. But I mean, on Reddit last week, I think it was Wednesday morning, I woke up and saw on Reddit all of these screenshots of that Blake Monroe vignette from last week, and then a whole bunch of screenshots from a Sabrina Carpenter music video, and it's basically the exact same thing. It is just a blatant ripoff of the Sabrina Carpenter character, I guess. I don't know much about Sabrina Carpenter. All of a sudden, she was like famous, and I'm like, I don't know who this is, but apparently a lot of people do. But
I actually do, because she was on a show that my daughters watched.
I was going to say,
I
you have daughters,
like a child actor.
Yeah, you have daughters, so that makes sense. But yeah, so like I said, wrestling. Razor Ramon was Scarface. Hulk Hogan and superstar Billy Graham, and like you've been wrestling's been borrowing things all over, for years and years. Nothing new there, but this is pretty blatant. That said, excuse me. That said, I was expecting this character to be more heel. She seems like she's really full of herself. And she just, and kind of the way she talks and comes across and everything. I really did expect her to be heel. Position her as a baby face, sure, but I don't know. I don't know if she's going to necessarily get over as much. I mean, I'm sure she's going to get over just fine, but I don't know if she's going to necessarily connect as well at the moment as a babyface as she could as heel. But like you said, the only thing that really makes sense is position her this way so she can face JC Jane, take the title off JC Jane. JC really seems like a transitional champion anyway. I don't see her holding it that much longer. Maybe a little bit longer. Maybe she doesn't lose it here to whoever wins the Fatal 4-Way. I still think it might be Jordynne Grace who wins the Fatal 4-Way, and as Kelly said, does not wind up losing the title to Jordynne, and JC holds on to it. That's kind of what I'm leaning towards too. It seems to really make the most sense. But like Sean in the chat, JC's really trying, I'll give her that, but she just isn't championship material. Then Ryan comes in and says, how do you know if you don't give her a chance? And Ryan's not wrong, right? He's not necessarily wrong. Ryan also says NXT is still part developmental, and of course, that's kind of part of it. And I'm kind of
I would counter and say that JC hasn't developed in like a year, maybe two.
I think what I was about to just say.
Been the best she's been for a really long time. And sure, you don't know how somebody will be running with a singles championship. She did have a tag team championship, but I just don't. I really don't think she's been championship material. Brock Benningfield asks, how many years has JC been there? I think it's 4 or 5 now. But she hasn't been on TV the whole time. I would have to see.
Her first NXT match was September 23rd, 2020.
Okay. So I guess we're coming up on 5 years. I just remember thinking that her promo there was a backstage promo that was the first thing she gave. And I said in my recap something like, this actually maybe possibly has a chance to be the worst thing I've ever seen on NXT. I mean, there were a couple of matches that were right there, but yeah, I thought that it was possible. It was that. I don't know. There was also chatter in the chat that she cannot be champion through Evolution and until Evolution, and then be forced to be on that show. And I agree that she shouldn't be, but the way that they shot her, I mean, she opened the show, she closed the show. They're trying to make her happen. So this might be a transitional thing, but they are genuinely producing her as a star, trying to produce her as a star and make her happen. I just don't. I don't
If
know.
this
I
if
I
this
don't
was
know.
still the COVID era, if this was still the COVID era and we didn't have crowds and we were still in the Thunderdome, or actually I guess NXT wasn't in the Thunderdome, but you know what I mean. Maybe, sure, because you can tell that narrative, you can pipe in crowd noise, you don't get the visuals from the crowd and things like that. But like you said tonight, when Fatal Influence, and I forget who it was, and Fatal Influence said, they've been running roughshod or they've been dominating the women's tag division or just the women's division for months. People laughed. Nobody takes them seriously as women's champion material. So I don't know. This is going to be interesting. This is going to be interesting. I'm Here we are. I didn't expect to be here, but here we are.
Yeah. Steve Repshire said, if you bring up worst, I'll always remind you
Oh,
of B-Fab versus Elektra Lopez. That is the match I was talking about. I was going to keep going. I decided not to, but that is, yeah, that is what I think. That's the one, but there is another one that was Santana Garrett, and she looks like she's wrestling at like a quarter speed. Like none of the moves are being done wrong, but everything she's done is so slow. It's it's tough. Yeah, it
while
was.
we're while we're here, I'm gonna read Ryan. Kelly. Jeez, I can talk. My mouth is working. I'm gonna read Kevin's email because I just checked it and it kind of pertains to all of this. Salutations, gents. I hope this email finds you well. I thought tonight had a lot going on and there was quite a bit of wrestling throughout the show. While I still long for more Ikeman Jiro on my TV, I'm now in the Inamura camp and want him on my TV as often as possible. He's a gem and so entertaining. That said, I thought the four women's matches resulted in a strong four-way match to lead into Evolution. Who is your money on to win that? I personally am in the Jordan Grace camp. Lastly, I'm excited that Blake Monroe's in NXT and the final segment did its job to set up Blake's first feud, but I'm not keen on her being laid out on her first real appearance. There was a couple other ways to let this all play out. Am I off in thinking that made her look weak? Thanks as always. Go VIP and listen to 8YB. Office hours now over. Professor Kevin B. Catani, PhD.
Now, perfect way to debut her. She's going to be a baby face, so give her a hill to climb. Also, there's three of them, and yes, it's three people who lose most of the time, but there are three of them. So by all means, get your visual, put her through a table, and then have a reason for Blake Monroe to be climbing that hill. I don't think there's anything wrong with no matter who the people are. I think three should almost always beat one. They haven't always done that. They had CM Punk beat the Shield, which is bonkers. That was a long time ago, but it did happen. But I think three should, in general, beat one. And if she's going to be a babyface, and I don't know why they chose that, but they did. This is, I think, a perfectly decent way to debut her. As for him saying tonight had a lot going on, I disagree. I didn't think this show had a lot going on, and there was quite a bit of wrestling. That's true. It did have a lot of wrestling, but I think storyline it all kind of fed into the same thing, so it didn't do as much storytelling as I would have liked. But anyway, I suppose we could talk about some matches. Let's talk about that last one because we've already been talking about Jordan Grace because she's going to win that four-way. Jordan Grace defeated Lola Vice. This was the last match. I thought that was odd because I guess they're both babyface, but it was really weird that they had all three heels win first. I don't know. I don't know why they did what they did. I guess they just want Jordan Grace to be like in the main event spot, and I guess she kind of was, even though the main event really was the Blake Monroe segment. But yeah, Jordan, this is the kind of match she should be in because speaking of 1 versus 3, she's gonna essentially beat the three heels, who will try to gang up on her. But that is just to put her over. I understand why they're doing it, but it just wouldn't make sense to have a heel against JC unless they're going to pivot that heel, which they could in Jada, and I'm in circles now. But Jordan over Lola, man, it just seems like Lola is kind of an afterthought now. She just got leapfrogged by so many people, and it seems like man, they got a lot of work to do if they want her anywhere near where she was even just 6 months ago, Nate.
I don't disagree. I mean, I never thought Lola. I don't want to say wasn't deserving of the spot she was in because I don't want to put anybody down or say anything like that. But I think the spot that she was in was she wasn't ready for it. I guess it's probably the best way to put it. I think she's probably more ready for it now than she was then, but obviously things change. We had people come in and a whole bunch of women come in. Somebody said it in the chat a while ago, but like we have the most stacked women's roster we've had in quite some time. So, I agree. I think, if they want Lola to get kind of back to that point, they're going to need to invest quite a bit in her. But I think it's doable. A lot of people seem to like Lola. I don't mind her. She's not my favorite. I'm not clamoring to see any Lola Vice matches or anything like that. But I think there's definitely some value there. This was a good match, though. I mean, it was 8 minutes 37 seconds. They got some good back and forth. I thought Lola still looked pretty good, even in the defeat here. There was that was 3 chant right at the very end there, where Vice got
Yeah.
Vice tried to pin. It was a long pin and all
That was
that.
weird because it was
Yeah.
kind of a long 2, but like not nearly as long that they should. It was kind of an odd that was 3. Like it clearly wasn't. Whatever.
I mean, it wasn't like as blatant as that match last week, and I forget what match it was now. David and I were talking about it, but there was a match where the ref clearly like stopped counting, and yeah, it was pretty bad. It was the main event. Thank you, Joel. Hey, Joel's always chiming in when we need him. It was the main event last week. But yeah, like you said, I think Jordan is the one to win at the Fatal 4-Way and move on to JC Jane. I don't think she's going to do it. I think if it was a real fight, she'd probably win, but I don't see it happening. I think JC's probably going to hold on to this belt for a little bit and pass it on to Blake after all of the happenings of tonight.
We talked about Jada a little bit, so might as well go to that opener. There was a long women's recap at the beginning of this show leading up to what this show was. Jada Parker beat Thea Hale in the opener in a finish I actually kind of really liked. Jada tapped and the ref didn't see it. And as somebody who's watching the NBA playoffs right now, like I get where they took their inspiration. So that didn't see it. Thea's celebrating, and Jada hits Hypnotic and wins 9-13. So they could pivot her babyface, but she won in a really heelish way. So so there you go. Jada fans still want to cheer for her because she's super, super cool, but they are between Jada and Trick. I don't know why they're doing what they're doing. Like, are they putting these people that they really trust to be stars through the ringer, giving them really tough assignments to see if they can also work heel, even though they're made to be baby faces? It just, yeah, it's Sean Plickta says the Thunder are the better team. LOL. It doesn't matter. Like, the refs are still missing stuff. Like it does. I'm not talking about who's the better team and who's not. They're obviously the better team, but stuff's getting missed, and it feels like it's a lot right now. But yeah, Jada wins 9-13, and yeah, she's a face according to the fans, but she's a heel according to booking. Nate.
Man, this was a tough one for me because I wanted both of them to win. I feel like Thea, I don't think she's quite as ready as Jada Parker maybe to stand in the limelight, be in a main event or anything. I mean, I guess Thea has been in a main event. She's challenged for the title and things like that. I mean, I guess so. Like I said, I think it makes sense that Jada Parker made it up. It makes it into this fatal four-way, but at the same time, actually now that I say that, it makes sense. Now, we already have, we've got three heels going into this match. One with Jordan Grace wouldn't have been the worst thing in the world, maybe to include another face, kind of keep things up in the air a little bit. Um, but it is what it is. Like I said, this is a good match. The two of them, Hale and Parker, have some good chemistry together. Um, but obviously Thea Hale got the visual win with that, with tapping out Jada, just the ref didn't see it. So I'm wondering if maybe Thea next week even goes to Ava and maybe tries to weasel her way into this match and become the second babyface in this match in a fatal five-way. Um, could be something like that because I don't think they'd play this angle for no reason. Nobody is as I don't think anybody's tapped out or escaped from that Kimura lock. Usually when she locks it in, people tap out. I think maybe one or two people have escaped, but I don't think so. So it kind of also plays into that. She still hasn't lost that streak, but yeah, it is what it is. I don't think we're going to see the end of the feud from these two, but we'll go from there.
Kalani Jordan versus Lash Legend. Lash has new music. I didn't see last week's show. I heard your show. I listened to you and David, so that stood in for it. I just listened while I was on a longer drive. So I don't know if Lash showed up, but slightly different look, hair highlights, different gear, different music, and just kind of a different swagger. Like she's always had swagger, but she was just kind of doing different stuff on her way to the ring. Um, all of that usually leads to a win, and she did. She beat Kalani in 9:55 with that thing that she does that probably has a name, but I don't know what it is. And all I can say is Kalani's so awesome, and I'm so bummed that she is still just kind of stuck. You can't bring her up now because you just brought up a whole bunch of women and she would get lost in the shuffle. So you can't do it now. I get it. But she's earned that bag. so I'm bummed. But yeah, Kalani is I like that they made her a long-term project because character-wise, she just wasn't there. She was just kind of a blank canvas at first. And man, she's just step forward so far I didn't think there was going to be badass in her, and that's one of the best things about her now. But yes, Lash over Kalani in 9:55. And Nate.
Yes, as Ryan just pointed out, he thinks it's called lashing out, and I think that's correct, the move. No, Lash, she has come so far from when we first saw her. We did a lot of comparing her between with Nikita Lyons, and we kind of thought they were both on the same playing field at first. And Lash, every time she'd come out, you could kind of see she'd put that effort in, and man, she is light years ahead of where she was, 2, 3 years ago when she first debuted here in NXT 2.0.
I watch Evolve. I'm caught up, and Nikita is in the women's championship picture, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
Why can't I avoid her? It's just Nate. She's on my screen.
I know. It's it is tough. It is tough. But but yeah, so oh man, you totally just threw me off. Which is totally fine. But I had a point.
Jordan versus Legend. Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there was something I was gonna say, and now I don't remember what I was going to say. Riveting riveting podcasting, Nate.
You were basically at legend has really stepped forward, and is light years
Yeah,
ahead of where she was. If that brings anything.
I guess all I was probably going to say from there was, I mean, she certainly deserves the spot. Obviously, I don't think she's going to win this match. She certainly could. She's got as good of a chance as anybody else. But oh my God, Steve, I just saw that comment too. I'll let you bring it up since you highlighted it.
He said NIL stands for Nikita is looming.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
she does loom. Oh
yes.
boy.
But no, Lash, I think she certainly, deserves the spot. I could see her as championship material someday. I really could, so maybe not anytime soon, because I think a lot of the NXT Women's Championship, there's a lot, that's already kind of played out for a little while, and both the women's main roster championships are, tied up, and so I don't think she's got like a spot for a while. But within the next couple of years, I could certainly see that. Um, so yeah,
In the chat, standard deviation says Lash looks like a star. Yeah, she does.
she really
And
does.
she didn't always. She looked fine. She was big, but she didn't wrestle big. She is a big that had to learn how to really make that size look cool. It's basically the difference between early and recent Drew McIntyre, because he was a guy who you'd forget how big he was just because he didn't wrestle like a big. Um, and Lash just towered over her opponents, but it took her a while to really learn how to really be a big, and she's there, and she does. In this look, I agree. I think that this really did bring her forward in a big way. I doubt we'll ever hear anything more about the Jagara Jackson situation. I just think it's odd because it seemed like they were soft called up. Like Lash and Jakara were on the main roster a
Yeah,
couple of times.
looked like it.
It seems like something had to have someone's mind had to have been changed. I don't know. Very cool. And Sean just says, I mean, that's what NXT's for. But he says Lash has improved so much as well. Fun to see wrestlers improve match by match. It is. That's what keeps me coming back to this show and to Evolve. And I know I've said this, but the standard of how good wrestlers are is so much different than it was 10 years. Like there's almost never a bad match on Evolve. There are bad moments all the time, but there's almost never a match that is just straight out bad from front to back. It's impressive how good they are. Character wise, there's a lot of bull stuff on Evolve. There's a lot of really bad character stuff on Evolve, but they're working on it. I mean, there's a reason only three. Right, an NXT only viewer would think there's only three members of the the Vanity Project when there are indeed five. Okay, one more women's match: Zarya versus Izzy Dame. This one was the short one at 8:21, and Izzy. There's somebody else who had to learn how to wrestle like a big, and she did. And Zarya is kind of. I realize Zarya has really not gotten much better in her time in NXT, and it's weird how she's been booked, but I can't argue with it because she's just kind of she's still a big who only sort of wrestles like a big, and I never would have thought I'd hear myself saying this, but I think Izzy has surpassed her in a lot of ways. Brock Benningfield says the turn is coming. Yes, it is. Zarya's heel turn is coming, and hopefully that will revitalize her, and the work will be better. I don't know about wetter. I have no idea, but Izzy goes on to this match as well.
There's a
Jada
joke
Parker
in there
Lash
somewhere.
Izzy Dane. There is, and I decided it was best not to make it. But yeah, Izzy over Zarya as we get three heels, all of them bigger, all of them badass, for Jordan Grace to probably go through.
Of course, you throw to me just as I yawn. Go figure. But no, I mean, All right, so Izzy Dame winning here makes sense because the Zarya, Sol Ruka, Tatum Paxley, they've got a story going on. Tatum Paxley cost her the match and all that. So I guess to progress that storyline, sure, makes sense. But man, Zarya comes in with such fanfare. She's got some amazing music. She had some great vignettes. Um, and man, she really hasn't made much of an impact here in NXT since her debut. She's had this tag team with Sol Ruka, and it's been fine. It's entertaining when here and there, but she just feels so. I don't know. I guess through the presentation of Zarya, I was expecting almost something like a female Kane. Maybe not necessarily the fire and brimstone and all of that, but still she kind of did have some fire. She's red, she's black. She was built kind of up to be a bit of a monster, or at least from the vignettes, and it's not necessarily what we got. Um, uh, so I don't know. I would like to see some more out of Zarya. I feel like she's being underutilized. Goodfellow in the chat does seem to say Zarya seems to present physically stronger than she is, seems to struggle on some basic lifting movements, and yeah, I'll give you that. But still, I feel like she's being underutilized, and there's probably a better way that they could be presenting her right now than just having her job out all the time.
Yeah, and that is something that snake bit Nikita Lyons early on, even when she hadn't shown how bad she was in every other way. She was really having trouble with power moves, and if they want you to be a power wrestler and you can't do that stuff, what the heck are you good for? Okay. Briggs and Inamura and Elijah versus Trick Williams and Wesley and AJ Francis. And you can knock me over with a feather on this pin combination, Nate. Yoshiki Inamura pins Trick Williams, seemingly setting up a championship match for him. But he said that he came back for his boy, Josh Briggs, and says, let's think big. Josh Briggs, TNA champion, Yoshiki Inamura, NXT champion. So standard 6-man on this show. Got messy quite often, but we got some fun segments here, and most of them involving Inamura, who I just adore. So that was fun. This scene kind of was an employment program. A lot of people at ringside for the heels, but yeah, when we've got Inamura. Well, now we've got Briggs next week versus Trick Williams for the TNA Championship. So probably our main event. But yeah, they kind of loaded up next week for as slight as this show was, Nate.
Yeah, I mean, this was fun. It was definitely fun. I really like these cross promotional matches, interpromotional matches. It's really it's cool to see how NXT is utilizing talent as opposed to TNA. I have been actually tuning into the last couple TNA shows, and it's funny because like things are happening on TNA that are not being brought up in NXT, and things are happening in NXT that aren't being brought up in TNA. So it's almost like the canon is only there when they want it to be, which is kind of cool. But I like the idea of Inamura giving up the title shot in a way, because Inamura is trying to help his buddy out and things like that. But I also am wondering, it really begs the question, why is he trying to help his buddy out like that? Like, is he really that nice? Is he that nice? I know he said he wants to go for the NXT title, Briggs go for the TNA title. They can both be champions. But if you get a shot at a title, take it. Don't give it away. I don't know. I question that. I feel like there might be something more there. Or maybe I'm just reading too much into it. I don't know.
He just wants an NXT championship match and is angling for it. I mean, we've already seen him say ancient Japanese secret or whatever when he talked himself into a championship match. So sneaky could just be what what the dude is, which would be a fun little subplot for him. The family, I guess we got to talk about them. Tony D keeps getting turned against. They're teasing stuff with Luca Crucifino. If I sound bored, I'm sorry. I just am. This storyline doesn't seem like it's ever going to end. We're going to be talking about the family and Chase U on NXT for another 10 years. But anyway, Tony D and Luca Crucifino potentially on a collision course because Luca did strike. Oh, wait. Was that this segment? Yeah, he wanted Luca to face Stax next week, but Stax angled for a match for the Heritage Cup. You'd never know it because Stax wasn't on this show, and Noam Dar did an interview that in no way mentioned Stax. Very strange, but yeah, a couple of questions about where is Rizzo. Yes, the best part of the family is off TV. And I know she's still got a while wrestling wise, but character wise, she does the best work of any of them. So yeah, Goodfella asks if she's swimming with the fishes or in hiding. I guess in hiding. I suppose you could turn all of the family heel, and then you would have a mafia that's actually bad guys, which sure. And to have them turn on Tony, we're still talking about this, Nate.
Yeah.
And it hurts me. Go ahead.
Yeah, we are. I mean, we're here. I'm still invested in the story, but I think I don't know. Is this a sunk cost fallacy at this point? So we've been so tied to this for so long now. I don't know. I'm curious to see who Stax Consigliere is. They brought that up in that segment with Ava. That he signed off on the match. Curious to see who that could potentially be. I mean, I think you could do some cool stuff, maybe bringing back like Little Guido again or something like that. But I don't know. I don't really know much more to say. I don't really have much more to say. It's it is what it is at this point, and you've got two guys trying to be the Dawn of NXT, but they don't have a mafia.
Yeah.
Except for
And
extras. And
what would the Don of NXT do? Like, what is
right?
the point of being that? Since
Yeah,
nobody else seems to care that there's a
you
Don.
can't make matches. Oh, I like Ryan's idea. Maybe the consigliere for Stacks is 2 Dimes.
We've talked about him vaguely coming back for quite a while now.
We have.
Yeah. Again, I just want a scene of him yanking him out of the water, just treading water for 2-3 years, and finally pulled out of the water. Yeah, and Ryan also reminded me Stax was on this show. Not a great sign that I forgot that. I even typed about it because I did the recap. He showed up with 3 vaguely Italian-looking guys. One of them, I think, was Italian. 2 of them, I guess, they're going to have to pass for Italian, even though, I don't know, maybe. They looked less Italian than Nate does. And Nate is, but I mean, they didn't look as Italian as Nate.
That's
so,
right. He
yeah.
is. Ryan brings up in the chat. He said that 2Dimes is still signed with AEW, and that's true. I did just look that up. So it wouldn't be 2Dimes, but it'd be fun.
Yeah, I didn't know if he was still signed to there or not. But so many people are. Okie dokie. Trick and the scene with Wes and High Rise. We kind of covered whatever was happening there. Blake Monroe, Bewitched, I wrote down. Yeah, Hank and Tank, they're the tag team champions, but you would never know it. I think after they gave them their feel-good moment, they kind of realized now they got tag team champions that they don't want to put over anybody. So they're just not having matches at all, or they're being in 6 matches. And that was the one time we got to see Obafemi, which is a bummer. I would have liked to see more of him because he is the best. And then Trick Williams as well. Um, and then we had the big scene with Tavian Heights trying to get out of. Again, why can't you just leave a group? Apparently, he has to beat Javon Evans to get out of the group. And if Javon wants him out of the group, what? Why does he need to win this match? Oh boy. Okay, anything on either of those, Nate?
Not really. Yeah, not really.
Jasper Troy exists, and Javon Evans is aware of it. So there's that. Uh, yeah, I sure. So Chase U. You know what? They actually did a scene that was different. They had their two new students walk out because they did not like his style because he was abrasive and would not allow Kale to ask him a question and just lost his mind on him. I don't know where it's headed at all, and I
No.
don't. I'm not super sure it'll be interesting, but they did something new, Nate. Go
Oh,
ahead.
I thought you were gonna keep going from there. Okay, they did. They tried something new. I'm okay with it. Like, the whole shtick with Chase, Andre Chase was he would, all of a sudden freak out and go over the top and start swearing and stuff. So obviously they know that. They've experienced that. They've watched him on TV doing that. So I don't know why all of a sudden now it's a problem. Um, they Never mind. I'm not going to go there. I don't know why it's a problem now. So, um, yeah, interested to see where it goes, but just barely.
Yeah, Ryan Slorio suggesting they're going to have their an NWO moment, Chase U Black and White,
Oh,
and Chase U Wolf Pack. Why not bring them all back? Just for the sake of that one feud. Ethan Page and the Vanity Project. By the way, if even if you're not watching Evolve, now you know Jackson Drake is the men's champion. He is the one whose name nobody ever remembers yet in Evolve, but that's his name. I saw so many people going hard as his name, saying like that is so WWE. It's his real name. It's his actual real government name.
yep.
He's just using his real name. So Jackson Drake is a mighty good wrestler, and he is the singles guy in the Vanity Project. There is another singles guy, but he's not NXT ready. But yeah, Jackson's good stuff, and he ended up winning that four-way elimination match. And I thought he would, but I think there were reasons that any of the four could. By the way, one of the other guys who was in the four-way elimination match for the Evolve Championship was Idris Enofe, and he was out for like more than a year with an injury, and I had no idea that he was out with injury. They've mentioned Malik Blade, but he hasn't been on at all. But Idris is somebody that they're pushing near the top. But he qualified for the four-way match, and then he was eliminated like a minute and a half in. Very strange. So I don't know where to slot in Idris Enofe right now, but they're trying him out as a single. Okay, and that scene was with Ricky Saints and his larynx. Very wise of them to have Corey be the one to say larynx because Vic pronounces it larynx because
Hmm.
he's an idiot. And that was and Ashante the Adonis, great riveting stuff. Ricky Saints versus Ashante the Adonis probably next week. Also, I don't know if there's anything in these scenes. They are so threadbare.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
then
I don't have much to say really on any of it.
and Tatum Paxley was I don't know. I don't want to say looming. That word belongs to Nikita Lyons now. She was hanging out with one of her dolls and trying to get in with Zaruka, and I think she'll get in with Soul, but that's where they'll lose Zarya. And then the Noam Dar thing was odd. Ryan Solorio, why can't I remember who Idris is? Does it help if I mention his initials were Edrisenofe? It was
In
Idris
Malik
Enofe
Blade.
and Malik Blade. And for a little while, they hung out with Brinley Reese, who's also featured on Evolve right now. And Idris and Malik were just dudes that were really good wrestlers. And then for a while, they made them kind of horny. It was a weird storyline that they did just for a bit with those guys where they were
Right.
just
The horny
guys.
guys.
Yeah. And yeah, they were just two thirsty dudes. But now he's going with the epitome of excellence, the EOE. And he always says it back to back. So is there a reason to say one when you've already said the other? I don't know. But they're trying it out. They're workshopping it before they bring him back to NXT, assuming he gets back to NXT. He's good. So, yeah, Standard Deviation says, I haven't seen that storyline. I'm going to Google it. Yeah, it was brief. But yeah, there was a time where any female on the roster who went by, because a lot of good looking females on the roster, and they were hot for him. Young dudes. Why wouldn't they be? Noam Dar, he gave a sit down interview, but it could have been about anyone. It could have been about he literally just put over the Heritage Cup championship. Like you would never know that he knew he has a match with Stax. Very weird what they did with Dar. They brought him back, and he's just not actually been on TV. Steve Repture says, epitome of excellence is too Brett-ish. Yes, and that is the obvious comparison to make. I guess they're thinking, you know what? It's been 30 years, 28 years since Brett was in this company. And I guess, us old hats maybe are the only ones who are remembering now, but I think it's too close too. So it's been a lot of years, but Brett was a really, really big deal. Like that nickname is still kind of out there. If nothing else, Brett won't let us forget because Brett does like to talk about Brett. I love Brett, but that's who he is. So I agree with you there. I think that changes will be made to Idris before he ever gets back. Noam Dar, you know what? I want to throw to you, but I don't know that there's much for you to do with. If you got something here, go for it.
How much fish could Bobby Fish fry if Bobby Fish could fry fish?
0, because that is the number of singles matches he won on the history of NXT.
That's true.
And I'm never going to let him forget for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know why I had to do this, but I do it. That I believe is our show. I'm Kelly Wells.
That is.
Find me on that thing, Blue Sky, at other Kelly Wells. Nate, who are you?
Nate Lindberg. Check things I do out, NateLindberg.com.
Horseshoe, everyone. We will see you in 7.